Today we're going to be installing some radiant tube heaters in this big building where they work on railroad cars. We're going to be installing them right along these edges of the building up here, and it's pretty high up in the air. Those are the two existing units that are going to be taken down, no longer used. Just getting ready to bolt this first flange together. This is the actual heater, and then the first two sections of tubing are considered combustion chamber. Booklet pretty much lays everything out that we need to know. So we're first going to bolt our burner flange together. So we're going to be hanging it from here, and then the system's going to hang at a 45-degree angle to point the heat out into the main room. So it tells us in the booklet that these brackets are hung about 116 inches apart, typically. We're gonna do that. And I got the first section of chain hung there. Decided to go with 28 inches for the length of chain. And then I just attached the tape directly to there, and we're just gonna follow it down that way. Every 116 inches and screw a chain up. Okay, so we got our chains hooked on to the first section, which we bolted together down there earlier. So I hate to say it, but I seem to have made a mistake. So it says all hangers must be installed with the cavity side facing the burner end of the system, except the vent end hanger. The hanger cavity side at vent end of the must face the vent. You can see the instructions are written a little bit poorly, but basically the one that I installed first, which is down at that end, I put it wrong, so I think I have to take it off. So real quick again, basically this bracket, the cavity side, which is this side right here, was supposed to be facing in. I thought on the end one it was supposed to be facing out, which on the end one way down there, it's supposed to face this way to finish it off nicely. But for all of the rest of them, it's supposed to point that way. So I just got it switched around. This makes so much more sense. It's gonna have a nicer finished edge. Details it out pretty well right here. So you want all your chains to be hanging at the same height, spaced 116 inches apart, which is what we did. Orient hangers with the cavity side facing the burner, which is the actual furnace. Except the last plate hanger at the end, that cavity faces the vent. Insert the swaged end of the first tube through the 4-inch hole in the first plate hanger, which is the first tube. Locate the welded seam and face it down, which is what we did. And that's what we bolted here. You can see this has a welded seam on the bottom. The distance between the tube flange and the first hanger must be 4.5 inches. Slide a torque-tight tube coupler past the swage onto the tube. So I slid that coupler on to this tube, and you can see I've made a mark here at 4.5 inches. But I won't really, after I put this on, I won't really be able to slide that to the 4.5 mark until after we get our second section on. The final position of the coupler will be on the burner side of the second hanger. So that is on the burner side of the second hanger. Position first plate hanger 4.5 inches from the tube flange provides access to bolt the burner to the flange and ensures correct spacing of consecutive system hangers. Check that the first tube is level. On the second tube to be installed, slide a torque-tight tube coupler onto the tube past the swage downstream end of the tube. Insert the swaged end of the second tube into the next, third hanger to support its weight. So we just have to, each time we stick up a section of pipe, we have to slide that coupler on that end first. So now we got it ready. We've got our section of pipe with the coupler on the end, our tin, got screws down in that white packet. Cavity side facing the burner. want this hole that's pre-drilled for that rivet to be right on the side of the pipe. There we go. See, now this could be slid, it's 4 inches down this direction. We're going to drill our 1/4 inch hole there, insert our rivet, and then we can clamp that together. I'll slide our little rivet in. Our rivets in there, and yeah, we're making progress. These bolts on these couplers are just a 9/16. Make sure you tighten them up to 40 foot-pounds, which you can just guess, or you can use an actual torque wrench on them. Yep, 40 foot-pounds. You can see our rivet is nicely squeezed right there. We got our joint in the middle. Also, I've been going and squeezing these. Did not squeeze that one yet because I had it off a couple times. But I've just been squeezing this chain link back closed like that, so that if there's an earthquake, it doesn't get away, I guess. It's rocking a little bit, but you can get it to hold still. It should be level. So because of that 4.5 inch offset over there, it's actually going to make more sense to come by and install the heat shields and spacers after we get the main pipe put in all the way down to the end, and even that last piece of vent, because that piece of vent needs to extend it out just a little bit so that the last hanger is able to hold it where it's supposed to be held, because we essentially lost 4.5 inches because of how they have us do this. Just giving it a couple marks so I can make sure I center this thing right. We gotta establish where the baffle's gonna be. They call it actually a turbulator, which I think is a really funny phrase. I should call it that though, it's kind of cool. Turbulator. Basically just a baffle. It's gonna slow down the exhaust a little bit. It'll help combustion down there, and you'll get more heat out of it because it won't be just blowing out the end of the pipe. Note, improper location of a turbulator can cause malfunction of the heater, property damage, and will void the warranty of the heater, so it's important. But you can see right down here, 175 to 200, that's going to be your BTUs, and that's part of the model number. Natural gas times 50 feet, which is our exact situation. You can see we've got those two, and then this one, and this one, and this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna need the 40 inch plus the 72 inch. LP not available, 50 feet. That's interesting. Apparently if you're gonna do LP, you have to go with 60 or 70 feet. Here's what a turbulator looks like. It's just a bent up piece of metal. It's about 42. Yep, about 72. So, go ahead and slide these two in here. The other thing they want is for the turbulator to be installed vertically, like this. They don't want it this way, they want it like this. And we did get it in. You just have to kind of jiggle it. And look how dirty this pipe is. So, for whatever reason, they want this end one to not have the cavity side facing the burner, with the cavity side facing the exhaust, so it's supposed to go this way, I guess. So the rest of the unit installation went pretty simple. Just went ahead and kept putting up section after section. Each section goes up, is screwed to the brackets, and then there's 3 spacers that hold the tin open a little bit because it's kind of floppy, and on its own it would maybe droop or sag in between the brackets. So there's just 3 of those for each, and put those in there. You can see the boss stopped by and informed me that I was supposed to be wearing a harness and safety gear. So after I was finished with that last piece, I went and got all the safety gear, safety glasses, hard hat, high visibility vest, and this, and then I cabled myself off to the lift or to whatever secure structure I was working by. So I highly recommend that. Don't be installing these things without safety gear like I was for pretty much that entire video. That's not recommended, and I changed my ways. On top of a step ladder, which is kind of scary, but this roof's actually like almost level, so it's not that big a deal. And ready to put the wall thimble. It's going to be kind of interesting getting into this rib. I centered it perfectly between two ribs on the inside. There was not an easy way to know what it was going to be like on the outside. You can see on the inside, I actually cut the tin into strips and then just bent them in. So we hooked up the intake and the exhaust. So we're pretty much ready to fire this thing up. I turned on the power. It looks like we've got power at the thermostat, so we're just gonna switch it to heat. Set at 70. That's the other thing we did. Gas line all the way from there up, over, comes down and in. You can see we've just got a drip leg built in there with the shut off at the unit. There's also a ball valve on the wall over there. So it's kind of redundant, but they like you to have one right there. And then this duct just goes out, so it burns outside air. I'm gonna put a strap here to hold this like this so it doesn't flop or anything. But the way that we did the gas line and the way that we did this will allow this thing to expand and contract this way just fine. Alright, so we found that this wire right here was unplugged for some reason, the one that goes to the V1 terminal. That red wire then goes up to our main valve. The valve wasn't opening, so it'll probably work now. It smells a little gassy from us bleeding it, but it should be fine. Also, this pressure switch tube was unplugged, so plug that back in. We're a little bit scared. Oh, it lit! It lit.
Oh, I had my fire barrier.
There it is. Oh.
That's the perfect example.
The blue beauty. I bet this... It's getting hot. Hot, hot. Whoa, it's getting smoky.
Oh.
Look at all the smoke rolling off. I'm not surprised at all. Nice blue flame in there. I like it. It smells just like a new furnace. It smells like the same. Kind of sweet, actually.
Yeah, I can hear it right there.
Crackling. Yeah, it was making like a crackling noise. I suppose there's a lot more oil on them. A lot of smoke. I can feel the radiant heat though. If you hold your hand out, it's radiant heat instead of like, it doesn't warm the air, it warms the stuff in the building. It feels like sunlight, the radiant heat. Oh, whoa. No, it's expanded already like a ½ inch. Yeah, in just that amount of time. Because this line right here is at 4.5 inches. That's where this is supposed to be. Look at that. It's expanding. It's already expanded an inch. Wow, that's crazy. Because we had to put the gas line and everything so that it would be able to expand. That's why we're using flex duct for the inlet. But as it warms, it literally stretches and then it shrinks back down when it shuts off again. There's quite a bit of smoke coming from those things. Hopefully that's normal.
Look at it, it's like turning colors pipe there.
Is it? And just like that, we've got the entire second run hung in place. Really doesn't take that much time after you get all your chains hung to get the unit up there. It's a lot easier if you've got two guys. So it took Darren and I maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half to get that whole thing hung. Whereas when it was just me, it took me like 3 or 4 hours after I got the chains to actually get it hung. So this right here is a different system that we're installing. This system is very similar to what we put in the rest of the video, except that instead of having brackets that we screw reflector shields to, there's just these bent hook style. I think this is actually kind of an older style. The shop heaters at my dad's place, I think, use this kind. But same thing, we're just adding chain. Rather than it being exactly every 116 inches, it's more like every 8 feet and then 2 feet. So there's one on either side of every single joint. Only one of those tubes is silvery, so the special joint went between the silvery one and the actual heater. There was no flange, but for the most part these systems are all fairly similar. You just gotta read through the instructions enough times to kind of make it make sense. So for the vent here, they either want a 90-degree offset with elbows to allow heater expansion, or they want you to put it through a wall thimble or flashing that is not sealed so that it can expand and contract and just slide in and out of the actual building. This is that other heater that we're putting in. I forgot to talk about it when I was installing that first heater that this video was about, but this is the same exact situation. So there's our 90-degree offset. We just went over, down 1 foot, over into our piece of B-vent, which stubs all the way outside, and then we have a wall thimble giving it a 1 inch from combustibles. So with the big door open, you can see our wall thimble and little bird cage thing. So there it is, all finished up on that side. You can see the intake has some extra material there so it can flex in and out as it expands and contracts. Same with the gas line, and then the electrician's going to need to come and run power up for there, and also thermostat wire, which that's not our deal, and that stuff's simple anyway. So yeah, it looks pretty good. I think it's going to be a good system for heating all their big equipment. So anyway, I hope that you found this video helpful and that you learned some things along the way. Either that or that you just found it entertaining. In any case, I'm gonna get back to work. Gotta finish getting this one installed. But now hopefully you have kind of a good idea of what it takes to actually get all of this done. So, talk to you later.